Thank you all for coming. I have a couple things I'd like to say, and then I will move directly to the actual reason you're here. I have some people I need to recognize. One of them's already been sung to, but between Trish Jordan, Lou Brown, and my lovely wife, Anita Betty, this would not have happened. If there was a mistake in between, and also my assistant, Mary Blakely. Mary, wait. So if y'all need something, 1 to 5 minutes to try, we'll take care of you. Thank you so much. What about the senator? He's a wonderful man and a handsome and fine fellow. I'm not recognizing electeds. They already got recognized. But anyway, we have the beautiful Senator Perry. It's okay, Gerald. And of course, Drew Darby. And I'm glad all of them. And I'm very proud that all of them are here. Don't get me wrong. I am very proud they're here. But I also want to recognize the 3 clubs that are being represented tonight. And so I know Roy couldn't make it from the San Angelo Tea Party, but he was here today at the headquarters and got to meet Colonel West. But the San Angelo Tea Party, the San Angelo Pacador Club, and the Concho Valley Republican Women all jumped in to make sure this night happened. That's why their names are on the sponsor sheets, and that's why we really want to appreciate them. So if I could get a round of applause for the 3 main clubs. Go visit these folks. These folks will tell you what it's all really about if you're not already one of them, and I bet most of you are. So without further ado, and without any more talk from the guy that you don't want to hear from, I want to introduce you to somebody. Most of you probably already know her. That's why you're here this evening. And Colonel West is more than just a pretty face. Told us this afternoon he wasn't pretty, but come on now. But and I'm going to go through the quick stuff. I'm not going to go into all the meritorious bronze medals and the fact that he's a decorated soldier that served in a combat zone. I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about the fact that he's Fox commentator, the guy we go to hear what conservative values are. I'm not going to waste a lot of time with that. I'm going to stick with the fact that he's an author. Guardian of the Republic is his book. It needs to be read, and you need to read it. And then the next thing, he's the CEO and president of the Center, I got it messed up, National Center for Policy Analysis. It's located here in Texas, and he has become a Texan to take over that fine establishment, and he's going to help us decide policy. He also is a member of the NRA and every other wonderful organization, but you know. So without further ado, if you would please save me from being accused of talking too long again. Too late. Colonel Alan B. West.
You all want me to do an Elvis routine or something? Someone left their shades. Someone left their shades downstairs. Okay, I wear my sunglasses. Get your shades. Come on. You to me. Hey, look, it is a true pleasure and honor to be back in San Angelo, Texas. The last time I was here was a couple of years ago. It was the Kyle Petty charity motorcycle ride across the country, and we had a nice stop here in San Angelo as we headed down through the hill country. And I really have to tell you, I'm starting to really become accustomed to being out here in West Texas. Last week, Friday, I was up in Amarillo with Representative Mac Thornberry, and we spoke to the great club that they have up there. And please give Representative Mike Conway my best, because I will tell you, you got 2 very good representatives in Representative Conway and Representative Mac Thornberry, both chairmen of some very important committees up there, being Agriculture and our Armed Services Committee. So please give a round of applause to You know, I came out to speak at the National Center for Policy Analysis back in September 2014, and I did not know that they were looking for a new president and CEO. So in October 2014, I got the call asking me if I would take the position of course, you got to go to the Lord in prayer and make sure that that is something that He wants you to do. And it is great to be back in Texas because my last duty assignment was in Fort Hood, and I finished my career in the military in 2004. My wife's parents are down in San Antonio. He's a retired military man. Our best friends of 28 years and the godparents of our daughters are in Denton, Texas. So, you know, God wanted me to be right here. And a lot of people say that, you know, we were sorry about you losing re-election, but you always have to understand that sometimes God closes a door and He opens up a better door. And we just have to be obedient and make sure that we are listening to Him and not listening to our own selves. And the other good thing is that, if some of you did not know, I'm a graduate of the University of Tennessee, and I recall the famous words of one congressman from the state of Tennessee when he lost re-election. And that was David Crockett, who said, "May you all go to hell, I'm going to Texas." I want to speak to you all tonight. I'm not hanging out with anybody named William Travis. And I don't go down to San Antonio too much either. But I want to talk to you tonight, maybe about 25 minutes. And then I want to hear what's on your mind, because there's a lot going on in our country. And anywhere I can illuminate or elaborate on some of the things, I know every single one of those guys, except for Governor Gilmore of Virginia, that's been on that stage and looking to run for president. As a matter of fact, I represented Donald Trump and his property because Palm Beach Island was part of my district. So I know him very well. I've been to Trump Towers and Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and all of them. But the most important thing I want to talk to you about are the 3 Ps. If you go into Washington, D.C., and you sit down with people, they will tell you that the 3 Ps are politics, policy, and procedure. That's how you try to learn your way around as a brand new freshman. But tonight I want to talk to you about principles, policy, and people. And I want to start and kind of use my life as an example of those 3 Ps. Because I think the problem that we have in the United States of America is really that the Republican Party does not understand who they are, its fundamental and foundational principles. They are incapable of making a clear delineation between who they are as opposed to the other side. Because if the Republican Party will stand upon principle and have the policies that follow along with that, the people will come to the Republican Party. And see, the first thing you have to realize is, why was the Republican Party established in 1854? There was only one reason, folks. The reason why the Republican Party was established in 1854, so that the only person with a permanent tan is standing before you here in this room. Now you laugh, but that was really it. Because the Republican Party had a single issue. The Republican Party realized that this country was to truly live up to the words of Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, when he said that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights of these: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. See, the Republican Party was established to break the chains of physical slavery so that everyone in these great United States of America, regardless of their skin color, could enjoy the blessings of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was the Republican Party that came up with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. And if you saw that movie Lincoln, you saw that seminal fight that lives on today between the Republican Party and the Democrats. A party that stood for individual freedom and a party that stood for collective enslavement. Because that's who the other side was. There have only been 2 black Republican members of Congress from the state of Florida in the history of the United States of America. The first one was Josiah T. Walls, 1873 to 1876. The second one is standing before you right now. That's what the Republican Party. And that fight continues on to today. Because the Republican Party principles are about unlimited government. They are about a fiscally responsible government. They are about individual sovereignty and freedom. They are about a free marketplace of ideas. They are about a strong national defense. And there are about. We stand for going to fight for those principles. That's why Abraham Lincoln did it. But see, what happens when all of a sudden you stop talking about those principles? You look at what became at the turn of the century, when the Republicans were kicked out of Capitol Hill and also in the White House. Then all of a sudden you had Jim Crow laws. All of a sudden you had the Ku Klux Klan. All of a sudden you had all of the segregation. And it continued on through the Woodrow Wilson administration when lynchings were so horrific. The poll test, the literacy test, all of those things were not things of the Republican Party. They were things of another party, another idea, a party, a group that does not believe in those fundamental principles and values that I've talked to you about. See, it was very simple. Everyone says, well, why did the black community all of a sudden change from being Republican? There was one single thing that happened, ladies and gentlemen. When Martin Luther King Jr. was in prison, Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy were running for president. And they asked Richard Nixon to call Coretta Scott King. And I can speak definitively about this because I grew up in inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, the same neighborhood as Dr. King. My elementary school was right across the street from Ebenezer Baptist Church because Richard Nixon did not call Coretta Scott King. And the word got out that John F. Kennedy had called. Then all of a sudden, there was a switch. And ever since that day, when I was growing up down south, there were three pictures you saw in every home, black home down south. You saw a picture of Jesus Christ, you saw a picture of Martin Luther King Jr., you saw a picture of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, I see.
And then in 1964, 1965, when a president from the state of Texas stepped up, it wasn't about the Democrats pushing through the civil rights legislation. It was Republicans. It was a senator by the name of Everett Dirksen. Because Al Gore Sr. and Robert Byrd, the Grand Poobah of the Ku Klux Klan, they did not want civil rights legislation. But because the GOP, the Republican Party, did not talk about their stand for that, then all of a sudden, Lyndon Johnson and the Democrats got the credit for it. And then in 1965, with the Great Society programs, Lyndon Johnson came along with some very brilliant ideas. One of the brilliant ideas he came along with was anytime a woman has a child out of wedlock, as long as she does not have a man in the home, the government will continue to provide her. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1965, the out-of-wedlock birth rate in the United States of America was about 6%. Today, the out-of-wedlock birth rate in America is about 43%. The out-of-wedlock birth rate has completely flipped. In 1965, 77% of black children had a mother and father in the home. Today, only 25% of black children have mothers and fathers in the home. And then you ask yourself, what has happened in the inner cities? The breakdown of the family, the lack of education opportunities, the lack of economic opportunities. When I walked down Auburn Avenue to go home, to go down to Butler Street YMCA as a young boy walking away from Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School, I saw black entrepreneurship. I saw lawyers' offices. I saw doctors' offices. Today, you walk down Auburn Avenue, the last time I went, I saw one thing that was open, that was a liquor store. Because see, the principles of the other side are not the principles that would allow me to stand here before you today. The principles of the other side are about wealth redistribution. Because they can go out and say, yes, we can. But in truth, they don't believe that you can. Because they don't believe in the individual. They don't believe in a free marketplace of ideas because they believe in a government that comes in and nationalizes production. And you want to know how that ends up? Just look right down the road to Venezuela and see what happens when the government goes in and nationalizes the production and brings it under government control. A country goes bankrupt. See, they don't believe that you, with the ability in America, can determine your own way. They don't believe in that pursuit of happiness. They believe that they guarantee happiness. And that is why you see them wanting to create and expand the welfare nanny state. Because it's all now about something different. Back then it was about physical enslavement. And through physical enslavement, it was about producing through the agricultural system. Today it's about economic enslavement. And through economic enslavement, what they're looking to harvest is electoral patronage. That's why they're advertising south of the border, come to the United States of America, and you get free housing, free education. That's why you have someone like a Bernie Sanders that stands up before the United States of America, and he is putting forth principles that have nothing to do with who we are fundamentally. That's why in 2008, when someone stood up and said, we're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America, and people cheered. People clapped. Because we're not talking about principles. We're not talking about inherently who we are as a nation. And if we don't talk about inherently who we are as a nation, if people don't understand what it means to live in the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known, then someone can fundamentally transform your country right before you. Then all of a sudden the children that you have raised in your home can go out and say, hey, I'm entitled to something. Because when we started with that whole crap about the participation trophy, we should have shut it down right now. See, the other side believes in social egalitarianism, social utopianism. They think that, you just show up and everyone is equal and they're supposed to be able to do the same thing. How is it that we have a Secretary of the Navy that is more interested in gender-neutral duty positions in the Navy and the Marine Corps 2 weeks after 10 of our sailors were on their knees with guns at their head in the hands of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy? And guess what happened 3 days ago? The Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was pinning medals on these people. Pinning medals on the people that, we said, well, thank you for taking care of our sailors. And we appreciate it. And oh, by the way, here's a check for about $100 billion. This is how we get off track when we don't understand principles, and then the policies ensuing thereof reflect something that is totally, completely antithetical to who we are. Last week when I was up there with Representative Thornberry and Representative Conway, we all served on the Armed Services Committee. Do you realize that we have a United States Army that is at 1939 levels? The United States Marine Corps is at World War I levels. A United States Navy that is at 1917 levels. A United States Air Force that is the smallest and the oldest fleet since we in the Army let them run off on their own. We need to bring them back to the Army Air Force. But what message are we sending to Iran? What message are we sending to Russia? What message are we sending to China? What message are we sending to North Korea? What message are we sending from Boko Haram all the way over to Abu Sayyaf with all the cats and dogs of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade in between? When our president stands up and lectures us about how we should be treating people here who are Muslims, but yet he had no compunction to mention what happened to 86 children in the Dakori village in Nigeria over the past weekend when they were burned alive by Boko Haram. What message are we sending? Because if your principles do not stand for a strong national defense, if your principles are not based and rooted upon the Declaration of Federalist Papers, the United States Constitution, then your policies reflect something totally different. And then what happens with the people? See, we need to take our principles, we need to take our policies all across the United States of America. My parents were registered Democrats, but my parents would not stand for the Democrat Party today. Because my parents made the decision how I was to be educated. And see, right now, we have a group of people, they don't support the effective education of children in the United States of America. And why shouldn't we be able to have the choice of where we want to educate our children? Because the other side believes that the only choice out there is the choice to kill babies, not educate them. And we need to make that clear delineation because it's a form of that. They don't believe in the individual and his responsibility, his ability to have sovereignty. There's a big difference between you having a pursuit of happiness and someone saying they can guarantee your happiness. And that's the message that they're taking to people. When you look at what is happening with economic development, when you look at what is happening with the oil and gas industry in the United States of America, there are predictions that 30 to 35% of companies in the oil and gas industry will go bankrupt this year. And that's not an unintended consequence. That's an intended consequence. Because one of the things about the Iranian nuclear deal, now Iran is out there putting their oil out all over the place. while we're undermining our own industry here in the United States of America and putting people out of work. And why put people out of work? Because then they become dependent upon the government and the welfare state expands. That's the policy, that's what they want to have happen. If you believe that the unemployment rate in the United States of America is 5%, there's an ocean right down the road. But when there are 93 to 94 million Americans that aren't even counted, that have dropped out of the workforce, our unemployment rate is astronomically high. The teenage unemployment rate in these inner cities are incredibly high. $15 minimum wage, why not 20? Why not 25? Because all of a sudden, when adults start to compete to go into fast food restaurants for jobs, when we start to make people believe that it can be a career pursuit to fry French fries, what happens to little Johnny and little Jane? Where do they go to learn that simple understanding about fiscal responsibility in their lives? I was so happy to get that $3.25 minimum wage job when I was growing up as a kid. But now we're pushing an entire segment of people away from that. And what did they end up learning? They end up learning that the only thing that I can hope for is a Section 8 house. Ladies and gentlemen, America needs us. America needs us to stop with the circular firing squad. America needs us to be that party that was created in 1854. America needs us to say these are our principles and these are our policies. We support these principles and we need to take it to every single corner of the United States of America. Because in 2012, President Barack Obama won 27% of the counties in the United States of America. 27% of the counties, that yielded him almost 330 electoral college votes. Yeah. This has become what we call in the military battlefield calculus. When you know exactly what county to go to and what precinct to go to, it's just a matter of reaching up on the shelf, pulling off the little battle plan, dusting it off, and doing the exact same thing over and over. We have given over territory to the other side. And we can't win if that's the way that we do it. I know that Tom Green County is going to be red. What about Dallas County? What about Bexar County, San Antonio? What about Harris County down in Houston? What about Travis County down in Austin? Everyone says how great Texas is, how red it is, but let me tell you something. Every single one of the major cities in Texas, except for Fort Worth and Tarrant County, is run by the other side. And some of the highest poverty rates in the United States of America is in the city that I live in Dallas, Texas. The sanctuary cities. This is what we have to go and turn around. Let me close by saying this. You don't win on being on defense. I've never, in my military history studies, seen any battle that was won on defense. Even if you have a successful defense, you have to counterattack to beat the enemy. We got to go on offense. And we have to put them on their heels. We have to take back our children. We have to take back our education institution. Let's get down to the middle school level now. Not just the college and universities, but down to the middle school level. We have to be the adults. My two daughters, 22 and 19, one's a graduate student at SMU, the other's a freshman at Dallas Christian College. They know my house, my rules. You bring your friends over, my house, my rules. You're going to sit down, you're going to watch the daggum debate if it's on, and we're going to discuss that debate. You've got to go on offense. Because if we don't, then the greatest experiment in liberty will be lost for subsequent generations. And that's not what I think any of us want to do. Never forget this great story. When you talk about standing in the gap for freedom and liberty against tyranny. In the year 490 BC, the million-man army under Xerxes of Persia decided it would invade Greece. And a few Spartans stood in a place called Thermopylae. And even when they knew they had been betrayed by a fellow Greek, King Leonidas chose one Spartan, and he said, take these words back. Go tell the Spartans and strangers passing by that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. And in the beginning of that great battle, when tyranny stood before liberty, and tyranny told liberty, lay down your weapons, Leonidas replied in 2 words in Greek. Molon lave. I think not too far away from here, there was a cannon in a place called Gonzales. And when the Mexicans said, give us back that cannon, when tyranny looked at liberty and said, lay down your arms here in Texas, they replied in the English translation of those 2 words, because molon lave means come and take. Your challenge is to stand in that gap. Your challenge is to live up to the legacy of the men and women in Gonzales. I came here as another Tennessee volunteer, part of that long line of knuckleheads that, for whatever reason, left the beautiful Rocky Top because they want to come here and fight for liberty and freedom.
Amen.
And that's why I'm here, and I place that to you, that we have to win this battle. It's not about bullets. It's about ideology. It's about principles. It's about policy. It's about people. It's about the people of the United States. It's about restoring we the people. And it can be done. Do not leave out of here unless you are committed to owning up to the challenge that Benjamin Franklin gave September the 17th, 1787. When he came out of Constitution Hall, a Philadelphia socialite, a woman by the name of Mrs. Powell, came up to him and said, well, doctor, what is it that we have? A monarchy or a republic? Franklin replied, a republic if you can keep it. God bless you all. Now get out on the battlefield and let's restore this republic and keep it for our children and grandchildren. Thank you so much. What's on your mind? Yes, sir.
How in the world did you ever lose that?
Well, if you know anything about South Florida politics, I mean, that kind of answers itself. I'll be very honest. I took an oath to the Constitution. I didn't take an oath to a party. So therefore, I was not well liked by the party establishment in the state of Florida. And a supermajority in the House and the Senate and the Republican governor redistricted me out of my own congressional district. And so I had to run in a different congressional district. And then, of course, I became the #1 target of the Democratic Party outside the presidential election. George Soros put $5 million against my race. Nancy Pelosi raised and put $3 million in. There was a group that came from San Francisco. And then, of course, there was voter fraud that we proved. And when we showed it to the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, they decided to do nothing about it. That's why I told them the exact same things David Crockett told those people.
As Secretary of Defense, how would you change things?
Well, it's very simple. Yeah, you know, I think the main thing that we forget is that we're supposed to fight and win the nation's wars. I don't believe in nation building. I believe that you find the enemy, you fix him in position, you engage him with all of your available weapon systems, you destroy him in place, and you pursue him. You know, what we need to do is look at the geographic areas of responsibility. And what I mean are the Central Commands, the Pacific Command, the Africa Command, and we have to start going and saying, what are the resources that we need to make sure we keep constant pressure on the enemy in these places? Stop playing this game of whack-a-mole. We're killing our young men and women in the military right now. I mean, 6, 7, 8 combat tours of duty. I mean, that's stressful. And look at what it does to the families as well. So I think that what we need to start thinking about is how do we build a military that meets the requirements of this 21st century battlefield? That it's not about going and building roads and schools. It's about, you've been bad, we're coming, we're going to whoop your ass, and then we're going to go back up. And that can be done in a fiscally responsible way. I think that we need to start making sure that we're working with the defense industry, that they are producing weapon systems that our men and women need, not the weapon systems that the defense industry thinks that they want, so that they can benefit from that. That's a very big paradigm shift. And we need to be able to articulate who this enemy is. instead of trying to play these very nuanced, politically correct games. This enemy is a theocratic, political, ideological enemy. And if you want to know, this is not something new. When Thomas Jefferson and John Adams met with the Day of Algiers back in the 1790s in Paris, during the time when the Barbary pirates were out assaulting our ships and enslaving Americans, they asked him very simply, why are you doing this? And he said, we're commanded to do so because you're infidels. Now, Jefferson was not a very big warmongering type. He was much of a pacifist. Guess what Jefferson figured? We're going to build a navy. We're going to end up sending the Marines. And the whole thing, the halls of Montezuma, the shores of guess what? Guess who's in Libya today? Islamic militants and militia and terrorists and ISIS and what have you. So history has a way of repeating itself if you don't pay attention to it. And just the same, you know, Neville Chamberlain signed a document in 1938, the Munich Accord with Adolf Hitler. He waved it and said, you know, I have a document by here, Hitler, there'll be peace in our time. No different from what our president just did with Iran. And they're laughing. They had already violated before it had even started. And now, look at all the things to do. We have to have some people that are serious about understanding the number one responsibility of the federal government is to provide for the common defense, not provide welfare. And that is a big paradigm shift we have to have. Yes?
Paraphrase Paul Ryan on the circular filing.
He got that from the military, okay? I'm just kidding.
But I've read his comments and they've been characterized by the media as being negative or even a criticism of conservatives. And I don't read those comments that way. I wanted you to comment on it.
No, I mean, look, the liberal progressive media wants to always make it seem like we have a fight going on our side. They got a bigger fight going on their side. If you saw what happened in Iowa, they're in a conniption right now. They don't know what to do because the person that has shown up that they didn't want to have a part of their formula, Bernie Sanders, and he is upsetting the apple cart. The person that Barack Obama really wants to have following him is Joe Biden, along with Elizabeth Warren as vice president. You know, I think it's healthy to have a debate, to have a discussion. But let me tell you something. When the clock says so, it's time to come out of the locker room. You got to go out and get the field. You don't argue in the huddle, okay? There's a quarterback, he calls the play. It's come down from the coach. You go out there and you execute. And at some point in time, this has to be about leadership. Leadership brings people together. And so I love the healthy debate. But the thing is this. Folks are angry because you got told, give us the House and we'll do this. Give us the Senate and we'll do that. It hadn't come about. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to stand up and fight, stand up and fight. But I will tell you, there were countless of times that, and I'm sure Michael said, this isn't the real fight. The real fight's coming. I'm a soldier. You say, you know, I'm ready for the real fight. I didn't come up there to you know, play kind with people that I know are doing things that undermine this constitutional republic. You know, when I was down at Camp Lejeune, I had 3 years with the Marines on exchange assignment. I learned probably the most incredible lesson from Marine Corps First Sergeant Jim Reifman. And he said, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck. That's why women marry Marines. All right? Lieutenant, yeah. They love the Marines because they're very simple to the point. And I'm not saying we go out and cheat, but I'm saying we find the gaps and we exploit them and we get them fighting against themselves. We never put them on the defense. That's right. You know, we never do. You know, in South Florida, you know, which is not exactly a bastion of conservatism, when you're out there, you have a town hall, you can see the faces. You know who's there as plants that try to, you know, upset the apple cart. And they get started on the whole abortion thing. I say, well, you mean killing babies? No, I'm talking about abortion. No, you're talking about killing babies. And they can't stand it. You have to be able to turn the language against them. When they stand up and talk about women's reproductive rights, yeah, I believe in that. I believe in research for uterine cancer, cervical cancer, and fibroid tumors, and breast cancers. What are you talking about? You're talking about the right to kill babies. Make them defend who they are. You know what I find so interesting right now is that people are out there just bashing the National Rifle Association, the gun lobby. Well, we should talk about the baby killing lobby, which is what Planned Parenthood is. And see, that's what I mean. If you find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck. Well, you can't say that, Colonel. You know, that's not nice. We were just talking about that, at your last day. Sometimes, you can't say this. Yeah, you can. God gave you a mouth. As long as you're not using profanity, say it. Okay? That is what I mean by going on the offense. How many people here have read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals? See, every single person that's here, if you have not read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, you don't know how to fight these guys. Yeah. I mean, step by step by step by step. How many people here have read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx? Every single one of you need to read it. Because if you read the 10 planks in the Communist Manifesto, this is exactly what is happening. State control of education, usurpation of lands, taking away private property. I mean, step by step by step, exactly what's happening. Progressive tax policy. The more you make, the more we take. All of that stuff is right. Just speak the truth. Speak the truth because remember what I said? Go tell the Spartans and strangers passing by. Adhere obedient to their laws who lie. What laws, what principles govern your life? You have to understand at the end of every single day, when you look at yourself in the mirror, that you did everything that was possible, everything that was right. You cannot look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'll let down my country, I'll let down my children, I'll let down my grandchildren. That's how this has to be personal. And am I putting my finger in your chest? Absolutely. Because this is not the America that we were attempting to have. 239 years. It can be lost in the twinkling of an eye.
Amen.
And we're really doggone close. We cannot take another 4 years of this. Yes, sir.
Colonel, when, if ever, is the Republican Party going to get serious about reducing the national debt?
Maybe if they stop, bickering and arguing on the debate stage and start talking about policies that address that. I mean, that's one of the important things, I had how many people, Art Laffer, Art Laffer, Ronald Reagan's economic advisor? I had 2 hours one-on-one with Art Laffer yesterday. And if you know my website, allenbwest.com, you would have seen how I recaptured that conversation. Art Laffer laid out about 13 or 14 points that we could do to start reducing our debt. He talked about a tax amnesty. Tell people you got 90 days, state, federal, and local level. If you owe back taxes, just pay it, no penalties. Estimation, $600 to $800 billion. Have a tax holiday, 90-day tax holiday. And then after the 90-day tax holiday, you introduce a new tax code. I'm a flat tax kind of guy. For an individual, selling off all these lands that the federal government has. Selling off all of this gold and silver that I guess is still there at Fort Knox. I mean, he just went down the line. Just some very simple things that we should be doing. And that's what I want to hear people talk about. Remember what I said? Principles, policy, people. That's how we'll win. Because nobody, what's going to happen on Sunday? It's the Super Bowl. And I'm cheering for Denver because Peyton Manning went to the University of Tennessee. I want him to win another Super Bowl so he can go ahead and retire so then he can get his neck cracked again. But nobody's cheering for a loser on Super Bowl Sunday. So why do we have policies that make us losers? So that's what we need to do. We need to talk about making Americans victors, not victims. It's a big difference. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Question, do you think if the FBI will actually go after
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not about going after the FBI is going to do their job. James Comey is a good director. He is a true, nonpartisan FBI director. Then it's just a matter of what Valerie Jarrett wants to do with it. Not Barack Obama, it's Valerie Jarrett. And let me tell you something. There is no love between the Obama camp and the Clinton camp. And so I really believe that this whole thing is a drip, drip, drip. It's coming from the Obama administration by way of Valerie Jarrett. And they're waiting for Hillary Clinton to say, be a pope. And then they're going to try to get Joe Biden in there. Democrats have a little different thing called these super delegates, and that's one of the big concerns that they have. I mean, Bernie Sanders can go out there and win all the delegates through the caucus and the primary process, and the Democrat super delegates can still undermine it, which will cause an incredible uproar. That's why you bring in Joe Biden, because he continues on the president's legacy. And then you bring in Elizabeth Warren as the vice president, because she's the only other person at the far left will accept, other than Joe Biden. So I will still maintain that that is their dream ticket. That's what the Obama administration wants to have. And by some hook or crook, that's what they're trying to make happen. And that's why I think the president asked Bernie Sanders to come to the White House. You know, this Chicago-style politics. I think he basically told Bernie, you go out there and you have fun, but this is how it's going to go down. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to hear more in the media or from the politicians about, I think there's a misconception that if you're conservative, you don't care. You don't care about babies, you don't care about people, you don't care about poverty, you don't care about women, you don't care.
Yeah.
But
You're just mean, nasty, racist. Yeah, you're hateful.
But my point is, I'm gonna stand up and say, I'm all about women's rights. I mean, I'm a woman's righter, and it's all about my body and my choice. But as soon as I can see, now, I will stand up for that baby in that womb who can't speak, and I'm about that baby's rights. And I speak for every woman and every woman's rights. I don't pick and I don't choose. So I think that's my argument against somebody says, I'm a woman's righter. And so am I.
I stood up in front of the Cold King folks down in South Florida, and I asked them, do they think abortion should be used as a means of birth control? And they stumbled, they didn't want to answer that question. They don't. That's how you seize the high ground. But let me tell you what conservatism is about. Conservatism is about believing that every single person born in the United States of America, that comes to the United States of America, is given a ladder of success and achievement. And you can climb that ladder in your pursuit of happiness. Now, there are going to be times when you slip off of that ladder. We as conservatives believe in the safety net. See, the other side does not believe that you get a ladder to climb for success. They believe that they give you a hammock. And when you explain it to people, that very simple metaphor, they get it. Because if you all have ever been down south where it rains a lot and it's humid, what eventually happens to a hammock when you leave it outside? It dry rots and your butt falls through it. That's exactly what happens. And that's why the most easy quote to remember, when folks are talking about all this socialism and giving folks free stuff, Margaret Thatcher, the inherent problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. That's why it's never necessary. And so that's all we need to do. The best way to care about people, the best welfare reform is give a person a job and an opportunity, not give them a check. Go here and then there and then there. Right here, sir.
Sir, what would be your recommendation about handling the Muslim problem, because we're fixing to have another 200,000 savages in our country?
Well, I'm not going to call everybody savage. I'll call the bad guys savages that are, beheading people and crucifying. First and foremost, I look at what's happening over in Europe. No single military-age Muslim males. How do I define that? 18 to 40. No single military-age Muslim females, 21 to 40. Okay? Go fight for your own country. Now, I am very compassionate for the elderly. I'm compassionate for children. But when you look at what is happening in Europe, in Germany, in Sweden, and in Norway, and guess what? They're done with it. They want Angela Merkel gone because of what is happening. When you have to start handing out, little pamphlets telling people that they can't go up and touch a woman, then you have people that are not seeking to assimilate. You have people that are seeking to, isolate themselves from your civilization, from your society. So I think that's what we have to do. I'm not going to stand up and say we ban people because of religious belief, but I will tell you this. If you subscribe to a post-622 AD, a Medina phase on belief in Islam, then you and I can't talk. Because the verses of the Quran reflect that violence toward people, as Muhammad changed his philosophy and his belief when he left Mecca, like I said, about 622 AD. So that's it. And no one can argue about that. How many folks here have ever read the explanatory memorandum, the strategic goal of the Muslim Brotherhood of North America? It was written in 1991 by Muhammad Akram. It was discovered in 2004 in an FBI raid in the basement of Northern Virginia. So write it down. That's another one of your homework assignments. So you got Rules for Radicals, you got the Communist Manifesto, and you got the explanatory memorandum. All you have to do, go home, Google search it, pop it in. It's open source intel. You can read it. They tell us exactly what they want to do to us in the United States of America. And you know what is even better? And one of the appendices at the end, they list all the organizations that are going to do it. One of those organizations, the Council for American Islamic Relations, has an office right across the street from the House of Representatives on Capitol Hill. They were front row from Hamas. The Holy Land Foundation terrorist trial, they were an unindicted co-sponsor in the largest terrorist funding case in the United States of America, which was tried right here in Texas. The enemy is not at the gates. They're in the gates. Okay? And we're enabling. So that's what I. Yes, sir. Next. Yes, sir.
As a veteran, I was wanting to know, what is it going to take to fix the VA?
It's very simple. What has to happen to fix the VA is you have to get rid of the union control and the bureaucracy of the VA. You need to get veterans at the middle and the upper level management of the VA. The fact that we have people that are writing themselves bonuses in the Veterans Administration system, when we have veterans that are on, these waiting lists, is abhorrent. It's unacceptable. But we have to have people that will fight against the bureaucracy of Washington, D.C., and the unions that are part of it. Even Franklin Delano Roosevelt did not want government employee unions. You can go back and read that, because he knew what would happen. That's our dollars. And the union should not be dictated. Private sector, okay, you can do what you want, but not government unions, because that's a very dangerous thing. So that is the most important thing. Get someone that will go into the VA administration and will clean the house. But first of all, you have to have a president that will back that person. Sir, green jacket.
Colonel West,
Yes, sir.
when you're our commander-in-chief,
Oh, see, I can't ride my motorcycle if I don't.
how are you gonna handle rules of engagement?
It's very, hey, look, the rules of engagement we have on our men and women, they're named, they're serious. When you tell people that you cannot fire until you're fired upon, I don't know how many people here have ever been in a firefight, but in a firefight, within 2 to 3 seconds, someone loses their life. When the enemy knows that they can fire upon us, and then when we get ready to return fire, they can put down their weapon and we're not going to do it, I'm sorry. Okay? If you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics suck. You're going down, Joe. Now, one of the most important things that we have to do is we have to stop looking at this current battlefield as a law enforcement engagement. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines aren't going to go up there and read somebody a dadgum Miranda rights and try to gather evidence or whatever. This is what we're going to do. We either kill you or we capture you. When we capture you, you're going to stay captured until you all stop fighting us. That's how it is, just bottom line. And first of all, if we understood the Constitution, we would realize that in Article 1, Section 8, Clause number 11, the President does not have the enumerated power or authority to deal with captures on land and sea. If you don't believe me, I'll show you the Constitution. So he's violating the Constitution. The President does not have the ability to do anything with naturalization. That's Article 1, Section 8, Clause number 4. So when rules of engagement come about, we need to do the things to make sure that we are creating success for our men and women on the battlefield. We're giving an initiative to the other side, and they know it. You can go and Google search like Apache gun tapes out there, and you will actually see Apache helicopter pilots. They have bad guys in their sights with weapons, and you hear the person talking to them saying, can you ensure that there's no collateral damage? There's no collateral damage. Can you go back and verify once again that there will be no collateral damage? I'll verify again there's no collateral damage. Can you make sure that they... Come on, man. If Johnny Jihadi is out in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's got a wheelbarrow, and he's got a shovel, and he's on the side of the road, and he has this cylindrical thing with wire sticking out of it, that ain't corn he's planting. He's smoking. But we have to go through all of these legal machinations, which is the exact same thing that hurt us in Vietnam. That's why the enemy was stationed over in Cambodia and Laos, because they knew that they could have a sanctuary we would not engage them. And he's about to come give you the hook, so one more question. I have good peripheral vision, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we all found out why you did not make full bull. Those of you who don't know it, it's next rank up, and it's because of his mouth and attitude, I think.
And
Which
because
I
I fired a shot over an
Yeah.
Iraqi police officer's head,
Right,
who was
yeah.
not coming forward with information.
Right. When what is your opinion of the problems in Oregon? And I ask the question not only because the federal government is interfering in Oregon, but they are also starting to come, the BLM is up on the Red River here in Texas.
Yeah, look, again, I mean, that's one of the things that's listed as one of the planks in the Communist Manifesto, is, taking away private property rights. But you gotta have the high ground. The problem that happened out in Oregon was that they lost the high ground. They had the high ground, they had the issue, but when they did it in a different way, they lost it. If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement had tried to take a violent response to what was going on in the South, do you think they would have been successful? They would have lost the high ground. When all of a sudden people saw men, women, and children having dogs turn on them, and water hoses turn on them, that became a shameful issue. When you have the high ground, when you own the issue, when you stand on principles and our rule of law, don't cede it over. Because now all that people remember is that they drew guns on federal agents. When they could have created an incredible movement that would have stood against the BLM. They could have gotten representatives. They should have forced representatives to come out there and stand and with them against what the federal government is doing. And now all we remember is that one guy was shot, several others have been arrested. Carpe diem. Seize the day and keep the high ground. That's how we win. And remember, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck.